They say if you listen closely in the Siberian wilderness, the wind doesn't just move, it remembers. It moves through the pines like a thought you almost had. Haunting, incomplete. It curls between ridge lines like it's tracing something lost. And somewhere in those mountains, where the land folds quietly against the sky, there's a place that hikers still whisper about. Not because it's the tallest, not because it's the coldest, but because something happened there, something no one can fully explain. The maps call it Khamar-Daban. But those who've been too close, they call it something else, the place that does not forget. In August 1993, 7 people entered those woods with purpose, experience, and youth on their side. They were not foolish. They were not ill-prepared. They were not expected to vanish into legend. And yet, by the end of the week, only one would return. And she would not return the same. Their guide was Lyudmila Korovina, a survival expert with decades of field knowledge, disciplined, respected, trained in the brutal logic of nature. Her group, 6 young hikers, healthy, enthusiastic, most under 25. Tatiana, the eldest. Alexander, calm and quiet. Timur and Victoria, barely older than school children. Dennis, athletic and reliable. And Valentina, 17, shy, thoughtful, and as it would turn out, the last to remain. They were following a planned trail, a route used by hundreds before. The trek was to be modest, even leisurely, a mix of hiking, survival training, and mushroom gathering. They weren't alone in the wilderness. Another group, led by Lyudmila's own daughter, traveled a parallel path. There was coordination, checkpoints. Everything should have gone as planned. For the first few days, it did. August 1st through 3rd, clear skies, brisk winds, friendly terrain. The group moved fast, ahead of schedule. They sang, they laughed. They picked chanterelles from mossy soil and talked about the cold nights to come. No one spoke of fear, no one spoke of death. But there is a thing hikers sometimes say, in half-jokes whispered at campfires: the forest only shows you its real face when it thinks you're alone. And on August 4th, the mountain turned its face. The air changed, suddenly, sharply. The wind stiffened. Rain slanted sideways, seeping into seams and skin. The trees stopped swaying. The group could not light a fire. Their clothes stayed wet. Their breath grew shallow, and something else, harder to name, began to settle between them. Valentina would later say it felt like the woods were watching, not just surrounding, watching. By the time the sun rose on August 5th, 6 of them would be dead, but they didn't freeze to death, not at first. They screamed. They bled from eyes, mouths, ears. Some convulsed. Some ran headfirst into rocks. Lyudmila, their leader, collapsed with her hands to her chest. The others fell around her one by one like puppets cut from invisible strings. Only Valentina remained. And even she didn't run at first. She just watched. Because what do you do when your world collapses in minutes? What do you do when your friends start to die, but not like people die, like something else is taking them? She eventually ran. She had to. And the mountain did not stop her. It just watched. For 4 days, she wandered alone. No food, no compass, no fire, just fog, forest, and memory, until, by luck or fate, she stumbled onto a group of Ukrainian hikers. And through chapped lips and shaken hands, she told them, they're all dead. They bled. They screamed. They just died. At first, no one believed her, until they saw what the mountain left behind and what it kept. 6 bodies, 1 survivor. no answers, only the beginning. When authorities arrived, it had already been 2 weeks since Valentina's escape. By then, the trail had gone cold, but the forest had not. They found the bodies scattered across the slope of a hill near the Jogan Crest, a section of the Khamar-Daban range. Some were clustered together. Others lay hundreds of meters apart, sprawled in odd positions, faces twisted mid-expression. There were no signs of an avalanche, no predator tracks, no storm damage, just silence, and the unmistakable trace of sudden panic. Tatiana's body was found with deep bruises, blood on her face, and no shoes. Dennis was curled in a fetal position, his tongue bitten through. Victoria had scratches along her arms, self-inflicted by the look of them. One of the young men had fractured ribs, but no external trauma to explain how. Some were half naked, their clothes removed in ways that didn't make sense for the freezing weather. The phenomenon has a name: paradoxical undressing, a symptom of severe hypothermia, when the body misinterprets cold as heat and victims begin to strip. But even that didn't explain the blood, the seizures, the terror frozen on their faces. Autopsies revealed that most had suffered acute pulmonary edema, fluid flooding the lungs, drowning them from the inside. Their lungs were blackened, bruised. Some had signs of malnutrition. Some had protein deficiencies, unusual in a short trip. But it was the speed of it that baffled the doctors. Pulmonary edema can be fatal, but not simultaneously, not to a group of 6 young, healthy people, and not in a span of less than an hour. The official cause of death: hypothermia, cardiac arrest in Ludmila's case. But if that was the truth, then why did their bodies show signs of internal bleeding? Why were there no footprints leading away? Why did no one survive except Valentina? The mountains gave no answers, only echoes. Valentina's story, when recorded, was both too clear and not clear enough. She told officials that the others had begun to scream, that they collapsed one by one, that she had seen blood at their mouths and noses, that some banged their heads against trees and rocks, as if trying to escape their own minds. She remembered grabbing Victoria's arm, running downhill, looking back, and seeing Victoria fall, convulsing, blue-lipped, gone, and then just forest and fog and the endless cold. Her account was vivid, too vivid, some said. Others said it wasn't vivid enough. When she was asked to recount it days later, some of her details shifted. She forgot who died first, then remembered, then doubted herself. Trauma, perhaps, or something deeper. Some whispered she had been threatened, that she had seen something she wasn't supposed to. Others said her brain had broken under the pressure, that what she described couldn't have happened, and yet it did. Because 6 bodies don't lie. There were no photographs of the event, no audio recordings, only a few damaged pages from the group's hiking logs. One note, written in pencil on a now yellowed scrap of notebook, simply read, "Cold, no fire, loud winds, eyes hurt." That was it. No last goodbyes, no sign they knew what was coming. Whatever happened, it came fast. And it didn't come from the ground, it came from inside. When news of the tragedy spread, comparisons were drawn immediately to another case, the Dyatlov Pass incident from 1959. Another group, another mountain, another night of terror and unexplained death. In both cases, there were signs of sudden trauma, signs of irrational behavior, signs of something unseen moving among them. But where Dyatlov's case became world famous, the Khamar-Daban deaths faded into quieter corners. Why? Some say because it was post-Soviet. No propaganda to feed, no narrative to twist. Others say it was intentional, that this case didn't just challenge logic, it defied it. And the fewer people asking questions, the better. So what happened? Why did 6 trained hikers perish in such a specific, terrifying way? Theories emerged, each one darker than the last. Some blamed poison mushrooms gathered in error. Some suggested nerve agents left from Cold War tests. Some said it was psychological breakdown triggered by isolation and fear. And some, those who still remember the old stories, say it was the mountain itself, not the wind, not the cold, but the presence that lives between, that watches from above tree line, that waits in the fog, that does not like to be trespassed. The Khamar-Daban mountains are quiet again, but sometimes hikers report a strange pressure in the air as they climb, an ache behind the eyes, a sudden drop in body temperature, a feeling that something is watching, not from the woods, but from inside them.
In the aftermath of the tragedy, officials worked quickly, too quickly, some said, to issue a tidy conclusion. Hypothermia. That was the official explanation. A combination of cold, exposure, exhaustion. But many refused to accept it, because hypothermia doesn't make a person bleed from the ears. It doesn't cause multiple people to scream, seize, and die within minutes of each other. It doesn't make young, healthy hikers rip off their clothes in terror, or claw at their own skin, or throw themselves against stone until they stopped moving. No, this was something else. And if we're honest, no one really knows what it was. But the theories remain. The first and most rational theory is food poisoning. Some believe the group may have mistakenly consumed toxic mushrooms such as Amanita muscaria or Amanita pantherina, both common in the region. Symptoms from these toxins can include hallucinations, confusion, sweating, and in high enough doses, seizures, vomiting, even death. And it's true. The group had been gathering mushrooms. That's documented. But the issue? No traces of poison were found in the bodies. And even if they had been poisoned, would the symptoms truly appear all at once? Would the entire group collapse in panic within minutes of each other? It felt too fast, too coordinated. And that led investigators to a darker possibility. Chemical warfare residue. Some speculated that the group had unknowingly entered a former military testing zone, an area once used to experiment with nerve agents, possibly remnants of the Novichok program or similar compounds. The symptoms lined up: rapid onset seizures, respiratory failure, cardiac arrest, disorientation. Even the pulmonary edema, the fluid in the lungs, can occur in nerve agent exposure. Could an old canister have ruptured beneath the soil? Could wind have carried something toxic from higher elevations? Perhaps. But the problem? No soil testing was conducted at the site, and the area wasn't on any known military map. Officially, there was nothing there. Then again, official maps in the Soviet era were known to lie. A third theory focused on sound, specifically infrasound, low-frequency noise waves below the threshold of human hearing, capable of inducing feelings of dread, disorientation, nausea, and even panic. This theory gained traction after researchers linked similar effects to the Dyatlov Pass incident. Infrasound can be generated by air currents, moving at high speed across mountain ridges, creating vibrations that impact the human nervous system. Could it be that on August 5th, a sudden weather shift created a burst of infrasound that triggered a collective fear response? Maybe. But fear doesn't explain internal bleeding or fluid-filled lungs. And again, why only this group in this moment? Other scientists pointed to katabatic wind, a violent downburst of cold air that rushes down a slope without warning. Such winds can drop temperatures drastically in seconds, disorienting or freezing the unprepared. These winds are real. They are deadly. But survivors of similar events have described the sensation of being knocked down, not mentally torn apart. And Valentina, the sole survivor, never reported any wind. No sudden gust, no roar of air, just stillness, and then chaos. Then, there are those who look not to science, but to something older. Locals speak in quiet tones about the mountain spirits, not gods exactly, but forces, guardians, watchers. According to Buryat folklore, some peaks are not meant to be climbed, not because they are sacred, but because they are alive. And they do not like being seen. Could the group have trespassed on something unseen but not unfeeling? Did they awaken something ancient? Or perhaps pass through a place where reality thins? Even Valentina hinted at this once in a later interview. She said, "It felt like we were being watched, not by something in the trees, but by the mountain itself, like it knew we were there. And it didn't want us." Skeptics laugh. Scientists wave it off. But the forest keeps its secrets. And if you go back, if you find the slope where they fell, you won't find any monuments. No signs, just wind and moss and silence. But if you sit long enough, some say the air grows heavy, that your ears begin to ring, and in the stillness, you start to feel a pressure, like someone is holding your name just behind your shoulder, waiting to speak it. Valentina never returned to Khamar-Daban. Not once. She moved, eventually, grew older, lived quietly. But she never fully explained what she saw. Her story, once vivid, faded in time. Some claimed she changed her details. Others said she was told to stop talking. Whatever the truth is, she carried it alone. The last witness to a moment no one else survived. And maybe that's the cruelest part. Not that something happened, but that it happened. And the mountain let her go. Even now, more than 30 years later, the Khamar-Daban incident lingers like mist in the minds of those who dare to follow the story. It's not just the deaths. It's not even the mystery. It's the way it happened. Quick, violent, and then gone, as if erased mid-sentence. No warning, no clear cause, no survivors but one. And the more you look at the case, the more it resists your gaze, like the forest itself is bending the light. Let's go back to what we know. 6 young people dead. 1 woman survived. No animals disturbed the scene. No avalanche. No foul play. Just bodies, found scattered like leaves, some naked, some clawed, most showing signs of internal trauma. The autopsies read like riddles. Acute pulmonary edema in multiple victims. Facial hemorrhaging. Signs of severe psychological distress. And in Korovina's case, a heart attack, unexplained for a woman her age and fitness. This was not a slow decline. It was a chain reaction, a collapse of mind and body that spread like fire without flame. And yet, Valentina lived. She told her story many times, but not always the same way. In her first statement, she was precise, listing the order of deaths, describing the blood, the screams, the seizures. In later interviews, the edges blurred. Sometimes she said Ludmila died first. Other times it was Alexander. She stopped mentioning the bleeding, then brought it back, then denied it. Some called her unreliable, others called her traumatized. Still others said she was silenced. After all, this was 1993. The Soviet Union had just collapsed. Old secrets still hung in the air like dust from a fallen ceiling. If there had been military testing nearby, would anyone have admitted it? And if something unnatural had happened, something that couldn't be explained, what pressure might have been applied to keep her quiet? There is one chilling detail that never changed. Valentina claimed that during the chaos, just before she fled, she saw the eyes of her companions, and they didn't look back at her. They looked through her, as if they were watching something else, as if whatever was killing them wasn't in front of them at all, but behind her.
Some have asked, why did she survive? Maybe it was chance. Maybe she had better resistance. Maybe she didn't breathe as deeply, didn't eat the mushrooms. Or maybe, as one theory suggests, she was simply spared. Not saved, spared. Because here's the truth, we don't know what happened that night. But it wasn't just cold, and it wasn't just fear. It was something that took 6 people at once and left no footprints behind. It left only questions. So we asked them again and again, was it something they ate? Something they breathed? A toxin left behind by men in uniforms long gone? Or was it the mountain? Not the rocks or the trees, but something older, the kind of old that doesn't count time the way we do. Something that watches, that waits, that tests. Because here's the part that keeps returning, like a dream you're not sure you've had. Other groups hiked that area before. Other groups hiked that area after. And nothing happened. No panic, no seizures, no blood. So why this group? Why that day? What changed? Or did something open? Just for a moment. Just wide enough for a whisper. Just long enough for 6 souls to fall through. They say the mountain still calls to hikers. That some report unease, even today. Sudden fear, sharp, localized headaches, the sound of breathing when no one's around. One man claimed that halfway through the trail his camera stopped working. It didn't break, it just refused to capture faces. You can go there if you want. There are no signs, no warnings, no monuments, just trees and fog. And silence that feels like it's listening. Maybe it was nature. Maybe it was science. Maybe it was a storm inside the brain, sparked by cold and stress and chemical imbalance. But maybe not everything that watches us wants to be seen. And sometimes, when it is seen, it answers back, not with voice, not with words, but with a reminder of who's in control. So, if one day you find yourself walking the Khamar-Daban ridge, if the wind goes still, if your breath fogs wrong, if your name feels heavier than it should, ask yourself, what is watching you from the trees? And if it lets you go, will you remember what you saw? Or will it take that, too,